I am your host, Charles Clark, and today I have a special guest with us today, Selena Rezvani. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Charles. I am excited to be here and for our conversation.
Yeah, it's always cool to be able to connect with other speakers and just learn about your life. I know how challenging it was and during the pandemic and transitioning out of that to still doing what we love doing, which is impacting people's lives. So, before we get started, let the Thrive Tribe know just a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my mission is pretty simple, and that's really to elevate more women into leadership roles.
Mm.
That has been something I've been working on for the last 12 years, and I do it a few ways. One of the biggest pieces is through public speaking.
Yeah.
So I do lots of leadership development trainings and presentations on self advocacy, really standing up for yourself every day as a woman. And then the second way I work with organizations is doing more consulting. So helping leaders create workplaces where women want to invest in long-term careers.
Mm.
And so when I'm not doing those things, I am a twin mama. I am a
Oh.
lover of cake. So I'm always baking a cake or looking for my next good slice of cake from somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, and I run too. You'll find me on runs.
Okay. All right. That's what's up.
Yeah.
How far you like to run? Are you a sprinter or are you a long distance runner? Which one?
Yeah, I'm more of a distance runner actually. I'm like in 25 miles a week.
Oh, okay. You
Yeah.
some rank in there. All right. Cool. So you talk a lot about pushback, right? As a leadership expert, the way I kind of thought about it was, employees going against what you're trying to initiate and engage in, but your idea of it is a little different. Can you kind of explain on that and why that's necessary for people within the speaking industry, especially from a female's perspective?
Yeah, I think pushback can conjure up these like sometimes negative images or images of conflict, right?
Yeah.
But I do see it more positively. I see it as articulating your needs, knowing when you're right, backing yourself and taking a firm position on an issue. As speakers, we need to do this all the time, right? For
Yeah.
our rates, to propose ourselves for a really exciting conference or maybe we weren't invited, but we want to be part of it.
Hmm.
There's so many occasions we need to do this as speakers. So I think pushback is not a nice to have skill, but a must have
Mm.
skill.
Yeah.
Even when you get the gig, aren't you negotiating every little thing in that contract?
Right.
In certain cases, well, you need to feel comfortable doing that. You need to practice and experiment at it.
So tell me a time when you had to really put it to the test, and maybe that's a daily way of living and creating that a part of your habit to really have the confidence that you need to exude that worth on the stage and to just create more impact and income and as a speaker. Tell me a time where pushback was a big pivotal moment in your life.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Charles? I am, and I'm guessing some of the people listening and joining us are recovering people pleasers. I certainly am.
Yeah.
And guess what? That made it very hard to say no. So I can still remember the first time I said no
Mm.
to a not good enough offer. You know,
Yeah.
I say no to unpaid offers, but this was a paid offer that was not good enough.
Mm.
And there is tremendous liberation in that. I can still remember the client. I can still remember them trying to talk me out of my no and into a yes,
Yeah.
and holding firm on that no. And even though there's a part of me that felt like, oh, am I killing the relationship? Should I do this to be nice? All these pressures,
Yeah.
staying in the know, like I said, backing myself, can't think of a more liberating thing
Yeah.
than doing that for yourself.
And what did that like do like for you in your career and just this journey that we're all on, right? What did that do for you?
Time, time. It gave me time back, right? We all are working with the same amount of hours and minutes in a
Yeah.
day. But you know this, Charles, as somebody in this field and seasoned, you could fill your entire week with like free requests
Yeah.
that come at you
Yeah.
of your time that are not necessarily going to have an ROI or a payoff. Sometimes they might, but you don't always know that. You could fill your weeks doing that. So I think it gives you back time to be choiceful and purposeful
Mm.
and clear on your value.
Yeah.
Really clear. It requires you to know your value like you know it, like you know it, like you know it.
Yeah.
Not be wishy-washy on it, because
Mm.
that's when people talk you out
Mm.
of your stance and
Yeah.
into theirs.
Yeah. I think Martin Luther King said, if a man, what was it? What was the quote? He was saying, if a man has not found something that he's willing to die for, he's not fit to live, right? And like that idea is like, what will you stand for in your life? Will you be tossed and turned when people tell you this and or that? Like, what will you stand for? I think a lot of times it's hard to get out of that, especially when you don't know who you are. Like one of my friends, he's having this really tough time to pivot to charge more for his service, and he's not even in the speaking industry. Um,
Mhm.
but he's like, man, I don't want to charge people too much. I'm like, look at the demand that you have right now. Like you're getting requests like 10 times more than anyone else in your area. Like you should start charging more. Or you're just going to end up burning out. And so he's just at that level of saying, should I change my fee, or should I continue to compromise the integrity of who I think I am and what I believe I'm worth?
I love that point you're making because this can feel like such an ambiguous world. Like no one's ever going to hand you a number and say, this is your exact number. This
Yeah.
is where you belong. You are setting these lines in the sand often for yourself. And let's be honest, you're ballparking, making as educated and informed, number as you can. But if we're really being honest about it, nobody is going to hand you a finite, definitive number. That's up to you to set. And so you better err on the side of
Mm.
valuing yourself
Yeah.
versus undervaluing yourself.
Mm.
It's so important. And I like your point because you're saying, look at some objective measures. Look at your demand. If demand is high, that's a metric right there. Another metric I like to look at is your scores,
Yeah.
satisfaction scores. Look, if they're in the 90s, most likely you have room to go up and to
Hmm.
be a little more aggressive in what you're asking for.
Yeah, test the water, like it's 2021 at that, and some people are still charging the same fees and that they were charging in 2010. And a
Yeah.
lot has changed from that time, and I mean, you got to consider all those things. Um, I want to go into your journey of how you got into speaking. Like, so kind of walk me through that journey. How did this all unfold in your life? I know you do consulting as well, but how did you start getting on that stage and impacting people's lives?
Charles, I got so lucky because in my 20s, I had a consulting job as a management consultant. And in that role, my boss told me, here are your metrics for the year.
Mm.
One of your metrics is you have to speak at 4 conferences a year and represent our company.
Oh, that's fun.
So it could be in our region or it could be further, afield, but you have to represent the company and you need to speak and pitch concepts. And I'm so grateful for that because it was scary as can be. It was so exciting too to have some of these conferences accept speaking proposals.
Yeah.
And it was both of those things to actually get up on stage. So those were my training wheels. But I left my corporate life in 2009. I wrote my first book called The Next Generation of Women Leaders. And what I knew about speaking was that recognizable names help. So I started pitching myself to women in business groups. My book was about women's leadership, right?
Hmm.
So at Harvard, at Princeton, at Duke, Carnegie Mellon. I can still remember going to all these places and colleges and speaking to women's groups. And, they were so excited and hungry for this knowledge and incredibly welcoming and wonderful to me. And they said, we'll give you testimonials. We'll happily, help promote you and your book and your knowledge in any way we can. And that's really what allowed me to start pitching myself to businesses,
Mm,
to say, I've done this over here. Look how I could, make an impact for women at your company.
yeah, proximity is power for sure. So like, when did you know this is actually something I'm gifted in? Like, I can spend my whole life or whatever time that I have right now doing this. When did you know like this is where I come alive and this is what's making a true impact in people's lives and my voice matters?
I think it was incremental. I would love to tell you it was like a woke up one morning or on a certain stage it happened, but for me, it was incremental. And
Hmm.
I think that's because I had so much self doubt along the way. So for every win and victory and thrilling stage I was on,
Yeah.
I had an equal amount of like terror that is this all going to go away? Imposter syndrome feelings of do I belong on this stage? Am I worthy of this audience? So I wish I could tell you it was just like that. But I think it was realizing, having people come up after you speak,
Yeah.
having people write to you and say, I took X action,
Yeah.
or I've been thinking and rolling around in my head that thought that you planted, and it's leading to Y outcome.
Mm.
That's like what moves you. That's what thrills me and gives me a sense of purpose every day. So I think it was watching some of the stories, the information, like move the crowd.
Right. Yeah.
That's what's made me say, you know what? This is worth it.
Hmm.
I am worth it, and I'm going to stop discounting myself.
Wow. Yeah. I noticed a big difference in the people who do it for the money and the people who do it because they truly care about people, right? And that answer goes in alignment with what you just said. It wasn't the reason that you knew like this my voice matters because how much money you can make. Your voice matters,
Right.
but because you realized the difference that it was making in people's lives and you saw the testimonials and people were elated to hear from you as and speak on that stage. Like those are the things that I kind of validate as like, man, this is where I belong. This is where I come alive on that stage, and this is what truly matters to me. So yeah, thanks for sharing that part. I'm curious to know, like, for you, what size audience do you like to speak in? Like, is it large audience, intimate workshops? What's your type of vibe?
I love a big audience.
Yeah.
Like I love to be in the, like low thousands. The buzz and the sparkle in the room, like the kinetic energy, that's
Yeah.
really hard to replicate. And it's a special thing. I like to do everything from like bodily exercises,
Mm-hmm.
to interaction within the audience. So when you see a massive ballroom,
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
testing out, experimenting, laughing at some of the, the funnier moments, there's nothing like that.
Mm.
And, I think they feel it too. There's
Yeah.
something about being at scale like that
Yeah.
that adds some magic.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you on the same when it comes. I love speaking to large audiences. That's definitely where like I'm like, come on, like this is like the Olympics right now to me.
Yes. Yes, exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what was the other question I was going to ask you? Okay. So here's my next question for you. Um, Tell me about a time where your most memorable speech happened and what happened when you were on that stage or what happened at that event and where were you?
Okay. So I'll tell you about a situation. I was going to speak to an audience I was not used to. So I'm
Mm,
not going to tell you the exact gig, but
yeah.
it was an audience that I felt very unfamiliar with in all kinds of ways. And frankly felt foreign to me, and I wanted to connect with this audience, but I definitely had some fears, and I had equal excitement about, getting to address this group and being on the stage. And I took a lot of time to prepare and to think about it and to research it. And I remember that night walking into the room feeling very other, feeling very different
Yeah, yeah,
from 1,000 people in the room,
yeah.
and nervous, and I went up there at my time and I gave my remarks, and they seemed to be tracking with me. They were a little quiet as I went. It's hard as a speaker. You're always trying to make sense of things
Yeah.
like that and read the room. Um, I finished my remarks, and it was the first time in my life I experienced a standing ovation.
Mm.
And it was such a crazy arc. If you had told me that's going to be the audience, that you
Yeah,
have like that kind of impact with, I would have never believed you. I just wouldn't. So,
yeah,
there's some magic sometimes to taking on the real challenge, scary, whoa, this is way out of my comfort zone audience or gig, right? Sometimes they push you out of your zone with topic a little
right.
bit.
Yeah,
Or it's like I said, maybe it feels like the people in the room really speak their own vocabulary that like you're outside of and don't know.
mm,
Sometimes the fruit of those opportunities are just awesome. And so
yeah,
I wouldn't trade that one for anything in the world, but it brought some new grit and
yeah.
confidence.
It's almost like a competition with yourself, right? Like, how can I do that again and again? Whatever that
Yes.
was, if people connected with it like this, I need to remember this feeling. I need to
Yes.
review and research and connect more with my content. Um, I think that's so important for us to do. What are your thoughts on continued growth, especially with COVID happening and we had to make these different pivots in our business?
Mhm.
What's your mindset? What's your mentality when it comes to constantly hitting that version of thrive in our life?
I love that question. Here's what I think. I think you can adapt to all the fanciest tech tools and, pivot from the stage to Zoom and do all these technical things beautifully.
Hmm.
I still don't think they hold a candle to you bringing your you-ness
Hmm.
to that talk.
Yeah.
And I learned this the hard way and the long way, frankly. For a long time, I did not tell my own stories
Hmm.
of struggle, triumph, digging deep.
Yeah.
And I invalidated them, right? I told myself, and you've probably met a lot of speakers who've done this at some point in their journey. Oh, that's too insignificant. That's not really a win worth sharing.
Yeah.
Or, that's an embarrassing fail. I'm not sure I want to tell everyone about that,
Yeah. Yeah.
all these reasons you talk yourself out of it. And yet, my goodness, that's when I started to connect with audiences. That's when I saw my training evaluations increase. When
Mm.
I started telling messy, ugly fails from my own life that were real, like when I blew it interviewing as a spokesperson,
Mm.
for a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah.
But I also shared some of my fiercest wins, things that made me who I am, bets I took on myself.
Yeah.
And boy, I wish I had done that sooner. So
Yeah.
I think a huge part of growth and development is no matter where COVID and post COVID takes us, your best tool is still going to be to connect with people through your stories.
Yeah.
And you're never done that. So keep sharpening those, keep
Mm.
banking your stories,
Right.
and with new speakers, I like to tell them you've got a central theme in your talk, or you've got several threads. Maybe it's about maintaining motivation. Maybe it's about getting sidelined and getting back up.
Yeah.
Maybe it's about a time you said no, and how that freed you up or empowered you in some way.
Yeah.
Nobody's walking around thinking I have great, wonderful stories.
Hmm.
But my advice to people would be is stop discounting them.
Yeah.
I guarantee you have great stories.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. Start testing them, start seeing what people relate to, because you'll find they'll follow up with you at the end about that. They'll say, hey, how
Yep.
else
The
did that
connection
pan out for
piece.
you, Charles?
Yep.
What happened after you got the job? Or, things like that.
Yeah.
So that's your way to keep growing, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. I truly believe that and support that. It's and it's always a challenge because being vulnerable and transparent, you're exposing yourself to
Hmm.
people's opinions. But I think what allows us to gain our strength back is the confidence in how we deliver it. Is it from a place of brokenness, or is it from a place of this is what happened to me, but look at where I am now, and look at how this has impacted my life for the better, right? Two different perspectives from that. One is
Right.
victim mindset, and one is a guide mindset, right? And I'm always trying to, when I'm on that stage, I'm always trying to take people on some journey for themselves. Not to say, what was me, like, no, it's this journey is for you, you know. And I think, yeah, we speakers definitely, we have that ability, and we're given that platform so that other people can connect with us, right? They're not connecting to like so much of the information that you have, because we can get that
Hmm.
in a book. They want to
Yep.
connect with the person on that stage, right? Because that's what allows us to create like this authenticity and a community of people alike.
Yes. And they want to know why you and this topic.
Yeah.
Why are you uniquely designed and built and experienced to talk on this?
Yeah.
So you're really doing a disservice, like I did early in my speaking career, to leave that out, to
Mm,
discount it and not share it. That's what makes you memorable. That's what makes you interesting. That's what you want to bottle
yeah.
and uniquely own. If you don't tell your story, somebody else is.
Hmm.
you know
Yeah.
do you really want that? you know
Yeah.
Sometimes they're going to tell the wrong story, or they're going to fill it in with missing, half right information. You've got to author your own story.
Mm.
And I commend all people who have the bravery to get out there and share theirs, the good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah, that's the next layer, right? Like, and that takes a lot of inner work, to
Hmm.
to get to that place. But tell that story even if your voice shakes, as I say.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah. What would be someone that a speaker you respect in the game? Who would that person be? And what question would you ask that person?
Hmm. I would probably talk about Brene Brown, and her work. So many people know her work.
Mm,
The way she shows up as 100% herself, and kind of unapologetically her,
yeah.
it is, I don't know if she realizes how liberating that is to other people. So not just is she interesting to listen to, and engaging and interesting and smart, she's also giving many other people permission, just by her example, to do the same.
Yeah.
And I find that breathtaking about her. I think I would ask her about that and say, if you could think of one thing that helped you stand in your power and authenticity and realness, like what was it?
Mm,
If there's one thing that made a difference with that, because she's just such a shining example, I think, of doing that well.
wow.
She's not there to conform
Right.
and be a cookie cutter something else, or
Yeah.
to match everyone else in the room. She is 100% there as herself.
Yeah. I what I'm thinking when I listen to Brene, it's like she takes research and it's like soul search. Like, not it's from this like this book idea and tons of information, but then she makes it her, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to break. How can you break the monotony of like just giving people facts and these figures to like, this is my life and this is how I'm incorporating and using these things. like she shares it so beautifully. Like
I think so too.
yeah,
And I think, we and other speakers can do our own things with that. I think surprising the audience, which, something you do.
yeah,
Surprising the audience is great, like making a pivot and a change they're not seeing or asking them to do something with their body. Oh, I didn't see that coming.
yeah,
You know, um, bringing color and unexpected references,
yeah.
that aren't ho hum business research, but that, whoa, I didn't expect you to illustrate it with an anecdote from there,
Right.
from WWF, or, from some
Yeah,
unexpected thing. So I think we can add joy and spice and color to
yeah.
so many things. And
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but I find that one of the fun creative challenges when
Right.
you're doing up a new topic or a
Yeah,
new
like
talk.
it kind of goes with your topic, like pushback. Like that's the unexpected twist that you added to it. Like, because I'm thinking one thing, and you're going to teach me a different concept of it. And so it's definitely utilizing those skills, but then also finding your it factor, right? What's the thing that
Yeah.
makes you different from everybody else on this subject? Like that's the thing
Mhm.
that's going to allow you to stand out and truly be memorable when you walk off that stage.
Yes, and you know what? One other thing that maybe this could help somebody, I feel like this was a hard-won lesson, and I would have loved to know it sooner,
Mhm.
is when you are designing, when you are coming up with the flow, think about some of the things that are gonna energize you. I know that sounds self-centered, but it's gonna ripple into the audience.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if I'm injecting an exercise and I could make it serious or I could make it funny,
right.
guess what? Hearing them laugh, I'm going to feed off that.
Yeah.
Then that's going to change my next move with them and what I do. So, remembering too and noticing when you're on stage, what makes me feel good?
Mhm.
There's a moment where I have people power pose with me and they follow my two poses. Well, guess what? It feels awesome too when I'm doing it,
Yep,
and
yep.
it boosts performance. So I think it's okay to sometimes say what's going to lift my game,
Mhm.
not just what's going to feel interesting or surprising or delightful
Yeah,
to them.
yeah. Love that. Love that. Well said. Before we go, Selena, where can the Thrive Tribe find you?
I hope you will find me and
Yeah.
let me know your speaker struggles and wins because I want to hear them.
Yeah.
You can find me at selenarezvani.com. I'm going to spell it real quick: SELENAREZVANI. And you can also find my courses on LinkedIn Learning. I teach all about confidence and advocating for yourself. So I hope you'll check those out. And find me on socials. You'll find me on all the social platforms under Selena Rezvani. And I'm excited to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining the Journey Page Speaking Gigs podcast.
Yeah, thank you for doing this, Charles. I think it's so important in a field that can be very mysterious that you're demystifying what it takes to do this. So
Yeah.
thanks for your work.